Like a wallet chain for your brain, this is the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast, brought to you in part by the Gumball Head Sobriety Society. And generous listeners just like you. Hey guys, good morning. It's your host, Gumball Head. Welcome to another morning episode of the Normal Isn't Necessary Road Rant series. It's the 10th of October, 2025. Obviously, I am Gumball Head. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hosting this show. So I hope everybody's having a good week. It's Friday. Hump Day was amazing. Yesterday was amazinger. And today is, of course, Friday, the end of the week. The day that we all strive to get to if you work a Monday through Friday job. And we made it. So I didn't do the road or the live drive last night. I didn't leave work until after 6 p.m. It had been a long day, and quite honestly, I was tired. I didn't feel like doing any podcasting last night, and that's the power of running your own show. Is if you don't feel like it, you don't have to do it. But I will say this: I got some things in the works. As you guys all know, I always promise decent-sized things, and sometimes I deliver big things. And I just want to put out a reminder. 2026, the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast is going to change their focus a little bit. Right now, we work very closely with, mental health programs, groups, and we work with organizations, and we work with businesses, and we work with different affiliates within the mental health and in the recovery community. And 2026, we're going to kind of try out the first part of the year by we're going to focus on music. We're going to focus on music and music involvement, mental health related stuff. Dre and I have been working very hard lately behind the scenes, drawing in fans, getting the network going as far as the music goes. We just found that we know that there's a lot of people on TikTok and a lot of people on podcasts that do interviews with bands. And, I think podcasting is a great avenue because much like lots of bands have songs, if you listen to a radio show, it doesn't matter if it's, Christian radio station or a rock and roll radio station or any radio station at all. They're going to play a segue and then they're going to play music. The best thing about music, however, is the fact that everybody likes music. Everybody likes music and everybody appeals to music. So, music is a good universal topic when it comes to things, and then you can throw your own unique twist on it. And that's exactly what we try to do. We try to focus on bands that are in recovery. We try to focus on bands that work with mental health. And, we like to do that. All Systems Go. Their bass player, Dean, wrote a song right before he passed away. He took his own life. And then they recently showed a video on TikTok giving homage to that songwriter, and it was one of those moments where I was just like, we talked about that in the podcast, and it was the first time they had talked about it really publicly in any venue. And the beauty of it is the comfort in the conversation. They were able to talk about it and not feel guilt, not feel shame, not feel any repercussions because of the venue, because of the interactivity, because of the situation they were in when they were having that conversation. And I like to think that sometimes we are able to, in the Normal Isn't Necessary podcast, give people that comfort zone and give them, the verbal hug that they may need to help them shed some of their vulnerability and express themselves, not just artistically, but as a human being. And that's one of the things that I get when I listen to music. It's like, okay, I identify with this song to this regard. And that's the message these bands are trying to put out there. But then they don't really realize what they're talking about until they sit down and they actually talk about it, you know. Now, a songwriter is going to know what the song is about. The songwriter is going to know exactly what the song is about because they wrote the song. They wrote the song with purpose. And the reason why they wrote that song was a purpose. And that purpose is why they wrote the song, right? So they're going to put that effort into writing that song and making a statement and saying something about that song because that is their intention of doing that. So we've taken that a step further without writing, you know, lyrics and without writing music to it. We're doing the same exact thing. We're trying to write a story and try to get the whole background punched into an hour of a podcast. Recently, we sat down with Dan Bach from Anarchy to Diapers, and we sat down with Tommy Wise from the band Anti-Wise. They'd sent us a box containing some Anti-Wise merchandise and some Anarchy to Diapers merchandise. They sent a gift to hashtag Rennie Talk, which we did a video of last night of him opening up the packages from both the two guys. And just kind of, you know, it was one of those moments where I was able to focus on not being successful for a minute and just understand and appreciate the fact that, you know, we're developing these relationships. We're developing these communications and these feelings and these understandings with other people. Dan said something very beautiful to me the other day regarding, you know, influencing him and encouraging him in his podcasting abilities. And I'm not boasting or bragging. I'm acknowledging the fact that, you know, it doesn't matter what we do. There's always going to be somebody that impacts you in such a way that garners that reciprocity and appreciation for either the artist or the person, the podcaster, the lecturer, or, you know, even the teacher or the educator. There's just so many elements to the personal life of people that we don't understand that until we get older. And I say until we get older because most of my interactivity with adults is after hours, and it's via social media, and it's technologically, you know, integrated. But I think that as much as I harp and as much as I condemn technology, I think technology has helped me stay connected to the real world as a result. And we talked about that with Anti-Wise and with Anarchy as well, and how society relies on technology in order to produce themselves. You know, people eventually are going to come to a point where they don't have any social skills. And in this day and age, you know, it's more important than ever. But with conversations regarding artificial intelligence, with conversations regarding, you know, emails and stuff like that, that removes the human element from life. And we wonder why people are sensitive. We wonder why people are, you know, progressively getting worse. It's because us older guys, us Gen Xers, if you will, we're starting to realize the effect of technology on people. You know, we don't go out and touch grass anymore. We do all of our business on a phone. I talked with Dan himself, and he was like, I'd like to see AI take over our jobs. You know, I'd like to see them take over our jobs. And I said, well, you know, it's funny you say that because there are lawnmowers that automatically mow lawns. There's concrete machines pouring concrete for houses now. You know, there are factories that are building houses inside the factory with machines and then putting them on a truck and sending them out the door. You know, I mean, it's not that hard to program a giant machine to take 22 by 4s and whack them together with, you know, screws or with nails and put them on a truck and send them out. I mean, how remarkable would that be in a large manufacturing facility? You don't need to have people with nail guns doing that. All you need is a computer that is capable of putting nails into a stud and putting those walls together on a platform and then throwing them on a truck. That's all you need. You know, toilets, they come pre-plumbed nowadays. Faucets come pre-plumbed. All you got to do is drop it in the hole and tighten up the fittings and you're done. You know, these types of things are designed to save time. But when you look at the time-saving aspect of things, what are you saving time for? You know, Yeah, you can get a job done in a third the time because of these prefabbed items that are coming direct from the manufacturer. And if you think about it, these manufacturers aren't doing it as a time-saving effort. They're doing it because now they can charge you for not just the faucet, but the O-rings. They can charge you for the supply lines. They can charge you for the solder joints. They can charge you for this. They can charge you for that, because it's all included in the package. It's no longer, it's no longer them benefiting from add-on sales. It's all included in one box. And what you don't know is that they're adding that cost to it. So your faucets that used to be $30 are now $70. I'm using this as an example because I kind of broke that down the other day. Glacier Bay from Home Depot, they used to have a faucet that was $23 or $26. Okay, you can buy the faucet, take it home, install it, you're done. But being in the trades, I always recommend changing out supply lines when it comes to installing a faucet. I know this might be boring fodder, but listen, there's a message and a lesson involved here. Taking a faucet and you add new supply lines. Some people use plumber's putty. Please don't put plumber's putty underneath the base of a faucet when you install it. It's not what it's designed for, by the way. Please don't caulk it in place. That's what that plate is for that comes to the bottom of the faucet. All that's going to do is add additional work if it ever needs to be worked on in the future. But you would have to buy the faucet, let's say $23, and supply lines, 2 supply lines at $11 a piece. Okay, you're at $50. Okay, if you use Teflon tape, great, there's another $6. You're at $55, $56. You want to change out your plastic aerator for a metal one, it's another $4. It's $65, $70 now. And then anything else you could possibly need. You want your sink hardware to match, you got to change that out. You want a different color on the pull-up, you change that out. And you're at $70. Well, now you can buy that whole setup at the store for $60, and it comes with the supply lines. You're not saving any money. You're still spending that money. You're still spending that money because it all comes in one box. And not only that, but there's no longer control over the quality of the materials that go into that box. Used to, bathroom faucets would come plumbed with copper supplies, and now it's all PEX and in flexible braided tubing. So your quality has gone down. Your ability to make choices has gone down. And here's the gig. You buy a faucet that's all in one, and grandma orders it off of Amazon, and it gets to your house, and it's only got 10-inch supply lines, but you need 12-inch supply lines. Now you still have to buy the supply lines. So buying everything in one box is great. It's time-saving. It's value-driven. But on the other side of things, what if it doesn't have everything that you need? We do that with our lives every single day. We wake up in the morning. I did that this morning. I woke up this morning, I looked at the clock, and I was just like, I just want to sleep. It's been a hell of a week. I'm tired. I'm working really hard. Been doing a lot of things. Just want to sleep for a little while. It's Friday, though, so I'll get the opportunity to sleep until a little bit later tomorrow morning. Maybe, but I don't get solid sleep at night. We have a house full of kids. This is the anarchy to diapers concept, It's like these kids need to just go to bed. They need to sleep. They need to let us go, But the beauty of it, the beauty of all things considered, is the fact that, we do that with our brains on a consistent basis. We think about it, when we go to the grocery store and we don't have a list, we already know what we eat pretty consistently, Your grocery trip may regularly contain noodles and bread and ground beef. But look at the quality difference you're getting now versus the quality difference that you used to get years ago. And the younger generations aren't going to understand this, the 20-year-olds, because there's no concerns about that, because everything that we eat is processed. Everything that we eat has a, number attached to it. Ground beef, 80-20, 90-10, 84-26, whatever, or 16, whatever it is, there's a number attached to it. And most people don't realize that that's beef to fat content, 60-40, what most restaurants use, because, it's cheaper. There's more byproducts in it than there is quality ingredients. Do that with our software. Think about it. Microsoft 360. You can no longer just buy Microsoft Word for, I think it used to be $9.99, and you could have it on your computer until the next version came out. Okay. Well, we're up to Windows 11 now, I believe. And, most people with Windows, it's a free upgrade. It's an easy transition. And I remember when people used to get excited about the new version coming out, but here's the downside. It changes everything on your computer. And it happens consistently. Windows 11, I don't know. I still like Windows, 7, I think it was. I think the transition from 6 to 7 was the most difficult, in my opinion, because of the information and the changes. But at the same token, once I learned how to use Windows 7, I was happy. Well, I've got a laptop that actually has Windows 7 on it, but I don't use that laptop anymore because we're at Windows 10. And that stuff doesn't work the way that it used to work. It's not working the same. It's not the same technology because everything's been upgraded multiple times. And it's got to stay on top of things, And then there's the AI and Integer, and then there's there's the upgrades to the services and this and that, speed performance increases, and multiple different variables that go in hand with that software program. But now we got to learn a new program. But Microsoft, you used to be able to buy Word and use it on your computer forever. Now Microsoft does a subscription service. Again, it's that pay-to-play world. It doesn't all come in one box anymore. And not only that, but you can't just buy Word anymore. You have to buy their entire suite. And I'm sure you can download Word, just the Word, but it's going to cost you more than it is if you figure out that you use Excel every once in a while, or any of the other Microsoft products that are out there. But it's no longer carte blanche. It's no longer a la carte. This is what you get. And if you don't like it, well, find a different program. So that's where the Apple world came into things, with the iPads, and you got to use the Apple products in order to, and it's not, there is Microsoft Word for iPad, but it doesn't work the exact same. There's Excel for iPad. It doesn't work the exact same. Now you got to learn two different programs. It's not all in one box anymore. It's not, it is all in one box. But again, it doesn't have the ability to have the flexibility that things used to have. So when we make things simpler, sometimes things become a little bit more difficult. We make things simpler, sometimes we add more ingredients than what are originally, in there. Think about the food bloggers that take the Big Mac and then they change them up, or they take a double quarter pounder with cheese or a McDouble, and then they're like, all you got to do is add lettuce and mac sauce, and then sesame seed bun. It's no different. Okay, yeah, you broke it down, you figured it out, good job. Why not just make it at home? Save yourself some money. Energy drinks, same exact thing. How many different energy drinks are in a gas station? Used to, you'd walk in and you'd be like, oh, do you guys have this energy drink? Sure as shit, they have this energy drink. Cool, I'm going to buy it, and I know where to buy it at. Well, now I know I can go into any gas station pretty much in America and get a green Monster, which is what I've been hooked on for the last 20 years. Walk in, grab a Monster, pay for it at the register, and leave. But the other day I was standing there in the gas station, and I paid over $4 for a 16-ounce or 20-ounce can of Monster. It's like, man, if I do this every day, that's $30 a week, and I don't usually just buy a Monster. I usually buy two, or I'll buy, a bag of chips, or I'll buy a candy bar, or I'll buy something that's not good for my health. Nothing is what it used to be. The foods are so processed. Those people that are sitting behind that computer playing their video games on TikTok, showing it to the world are eating, pizza. They're eating fast food because of the convenience of DoorDash, because of the convenience of Instacart, because of these conveniences that the world has come to as a result of the damnation of our country during COVID. Convenience increased our ability to stay home. That's what I like about getting in my car and going to work on a regular basis, is that I don't just stay home all day. I get to get out of the house. My wife, on the other hand, stays home. She just figure out a way to entertain 3 children. It's a struggle for her, and I respect it 100% because she's capable of doing that. And when I'm home with the kids, they enjoy it because I'm not a huge I do puzzles and I do coloring and I sit down and do art. But they also see me, I do music and this and that. They get a little bit of something different when Dad's home. But we do focus on the technology a little bit harder than Mom does, because Mom's about learning with paper and crayons, whereas I'm about learning about things musically. I'm learning about things, creatively. So different teachers, different outcomes. And that's kind of the way the world is nowadays. So take a look around, guys. Take an opportunity today to kind of just breathe in all of this information and see how the world is, and take a moment to just appreciate those things that are around you. Breathe in the people that are important to you, and maybe sit and meditate with it. Tune in tonight for our live drive at 5-ish. I promise you, we're going to be right around 5 o'clock with our co-host, Together Light, for the drive home. We're going to beat out of here at work on time today, because it's time to go home and rest and spend some time with the family. I missed them this week because I've been working. So until our paths cross, stay strong, stay focused, stay sober, stay tuned. More changes and bigger things coming. We'll see you all soon. Much love.